All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Fiona, and on behalf of the organizing team from Civic Exchange Sustain Hong Kong and HKUST Entrepreneurship Center, just wanted to say a warm welcome to you. If you have been following us, you will know that this is our last event of the series. And in honor of those who supported us, who've been coming to see us, I'll briefly recap of what we did at TEDxCivic Exchange. Back in early October, we made a rather last minute, but perhaps the best decision to apply for a license to host TEDx Countdown, which is part of a global initiative to champion and accelerate solutions to the climate crisis. Instead of one event, we created a 2-month series of virtual gatherings to discuss climate solutions for Hong Kong. We also try to be quite intentional about the program, giving opportunities to perhaps lesser known, but definitely up and rising organizations and climate leaders in our society to speak on this amazing TEDx platform. We also tried our best to prioritize women and younger leaders. Now, almost 2 months later, we completed 6 events and accumulated 100 views of our programs and counting. Without further ado, I will pass the time to Sonia from Sustain Hong Kong team to introduce the speakers for us tonight. Sonia, please.
Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to the final track of TEDxCivic Exchange, Think Local, Think Green, Homegrown Success Stories across businesses and communities. My name is Sonia. I will be hosting the session tonight. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown how vulnerable the world is to a truly global catastrophe. However, another bigger catastrophe, climate crisis, has been building for many decades, and the world is still lagging far behind in efforts to address it. In the latest report of IFRC on world disasters, 83% of all disasters in the past decade were caused by extreme weather and climate-related events like floods and storms. And these disasters killed more than 400,000 people and affected 1.7 billion people. Climate change is not waiting for COVID-19 to be brought under control. There are things every corporate, every community, and every individual can do about climate change. Tonight, we are extremely excited to have with us 4 incredible ladies. They are homegrown startup founders and business leaders who are going to share with us what their organizations are doing to contribute to the green transition in their own way by leveraging the power of community and driving change from the top. They will focus respectively on fashion, food, living space, and travel. It's 衣食住行 in Chinese. And they will also talk about specific and locally relevant actions everyone can take to stop climate change from affecting the world and every one of us. After the sharing of the 4 speakers, there will be a Q&A section. Please feel free to type your questions to us anytime during the Zoom call. As you know, we are going to focus on fashion, food, living space, and travel. So let us welcome our first speaker, Dorothy Poon, to talk about sustainable fashion. Dorothy is the Vice President of Digital Commerce at Condor Fashion, the largest specialist in the knitwear sector. She is also the founder of 22 Factor, a sustainable and ethical knitwear brand that upcycles virgin yarn from luxury fashion. Dorothy's experience span across product development, manufacturing, logistics, brand management, retailing, and digital transformation. So let's hear from Dorothy on how she incorporates sustainability into her fashion journey.
When you think about sustainable practices, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it vegan food, reusable straws, or electric cars? These are all great habits. They're powerful because we eat, drink, and commute every day. Interestingly enough, there's one thing that touches us every day, that it impacts the planet in a major way, but is not being given as much attention. That's the clothes we wear. Fashion is the second most polluting industry in the world. There's a joke that says, if you want to know the color for the next season, Just go check out the rivers in China. Fashion is also the second largest water consumer worldwide. It takes 700 gallons of water to make one cotton t-shirt. That's enough water for a person to drink for 2.5 years. Fashion also produces 10% of all humanity's carbon emission. That's more than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. What's even more shocking is, after putting in all these resources into producing clothes, one garbage truck of textiles is landfilled or incinerated every second. Good news is, fashion doesn't have to be so detrimental. It can also be a powerful and transformational force if we, as industry players or consumers, make informed and conscious decisions. I've been in the fashion industry for 7 years, where I worked alongside with a lot of world-class design talents to realize their creations. It's a glamorous and beautiful world, but there surely is a price to pay. If you've ever created anything, you would know that it always takes a lot of trials to perfect any creative work. Think about how you make a presentation deck. You choose a background, you choose the font and color. Only later, when you don't like it, you change a component and want to see again how it looks. The same process happens when designers make a collection. The only difference is it's all physical. You can't just press a button to change and delete anything. Every iteration consumes materials, uses resources, and creates waste. In the first few years, I didn't feel anything about a waste. To me, they were just numbers on a spreadsheet where factory would send over and ask for disposal permission. I didn't see the materials physically. I wasn't the one throwing them away. I was aware of the environmental impact, but I didn't feel it at a deep emotional level. This is the same reason why many people are not motivated to address climate change. It's not immediate enough. It feels so distant psychologically, and it's not personal. Climate change doesn't have a face, and there's no one to blame. I was struggling for literally a year to think if I should do something. Even though I know it's the right thing to do, it took me a lot of mental capacity to force myself to take ownership of the issue. It's with this uncertainty that I started this brand called 22 Factor. What we do with the brand is we upcycle leftover virgin materials from the luxury world to give consumers premium quality at a fraction of price. With this upcycling principle, we need to do a lot more work than normal brands. It is very time-consuming to organize a mountain load of fragmented materials. It's not an easy process, and many a times I doubted whether the effort was worthwhile. But there are always nice surprises along the way that keep us going. There is an occasion where I got to meet the chairman of a very famous European brand. When I introduced to him what I did, he said the most unbelievable thing in my life. He said that he knew about our brand. He discovered us when he was searching for sustainability inspiration. And there he told his team to explore and study our processes. Since that encounter, I stopped doubting our impact and tried to do more. We made challenging the status quo the core of our brand. The biggest reason behind fashion waste is overproduction, because brands and retailers, they don't have the crystal ball to forecast consumers' demand. So they would rather double volume with factories and deal with the excess later than not stock enough and have lost sales. To tackle this problem, we're working on an on-demand manufacturing model where we only produce goods when demands are confirmed, meaning when customers click buy in our shops. An even crazier idea is, what if we don't manufacture clothes at all? Instead, we just virtually dress up our consumers. Indeed, we're already doing it with our retail photo. On the screen, you'll see two images. One is real and one is not. There wasn't much a difference. Now that we're interacting so much through screens, a digital wardrobe does make sense. Imagine how fun it is for you to express yourself on social media with no impact on the environment. Then you can also go for a grocery run in gown like Taylor Swift. This is what we do. We dissect the industry, we look at common practices and ask, is there a better way to do things? We as industry players have an important role to play, but the biggest driving force to revolutionize the industry is really you as consumers with your wallet voting power. First and foremost, I encourage you to put 10% of your fashion spend on sustainable products. Don't underestimate this 10%. Think of it like a meat-free Green Monday in fashion. Like all innovations, when there are enough early adopters, it would diffuse to a larger community. When it hits the critical mass, sustainable fashion would become the norm and non-sustainable products would be obsolete. Just like your great Aunt Helen, she doesn't buy a smartphone for the functions. She's buying it because it's so difficult for her to find a non-smartphone these days. We are what we wear. Clothes are a big part of our identity. So choose something that can represent you at the core and tell a story that resonates. Treat clothes more like true love than flings. Choose quality over quantity. Timeless over trendy. Small as we are, we can all make a difference. Just like the famous quote by Margaret Mead says, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dorothy, for her sharing. Every day we make a lot of simple decisions like what to wear, what to buy, and what to eat. So our next speaker, Tiffany Lau, is going to talk about why and how to make sustainable food choices. Tiffany is the founder of Solistic, which creates locally sourced plant-based foods and offer food consultation and dining experiences. She received her culinary training and nutrition certification in the US and is the certified plant-based chef and plant-based nutritionist. Let's welcome Tiffany.
Thank you, Sonia. Let me share my screen. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Tiffany and I'm a vegan chef. If you think I started becoming vegan because of environmental reason, it doesn't start that straightforward. In fact, I never imagined myself becoming vegan. We are surrounded by research and facts on how everyone can contribute to our greener planet, especially by having a plant-based diet. That is true, but I also know that I'm just one person. I'm just one person out of the 7.8 billion people. So when it comes to saving the world by being vegan, I wasn't convinced at all. Yes, I will bring my shopping bag. Yes, I will ask to take out the plastic cutlery. And even though they still put it into my takeaways when I order it, but that's it. Reducing one plastic bag or one set of plastic cutlery won't reduce the man-made pollution happening in the world. I guess karma knows me too well. I need a stronger reason to be convinced. So karma introduced me to depression and anxiety. I become vegan because of health. A few years ago, I was going through a series of antidepressants and rounds of allergy. It was so bad to a point that I either have to spend 300,000 Hong Kong dollars for 3 months injections, or I just have to change my diet. Now, since you know I'm a vegan chef now, obviously I chose the latter. I tried multiple diets. Vegan/vegetarian was my last option. And frankly, I didn't have high hopes at first. I do it because I want to prove it doesn't work. And then it saved me. In this year, 2020, it is actually my 4th year clean from antidepressants. And my healing journey led me to start Solistic. Our vision is for everyone to rely on a healthy and cleaner diet over medications. And the best way to change diet is through experience and change from within. We believe putting the right diet into our body will bring good health. And similarly, when it comes to setting up a business, putting the right mindsets into operations can bring change, including reduce your carbon footprint. So today, I want to share with you all my story. After graduation, I worked in the event industry, doing lots of big and small events, private concerts, and conferences, and very satisfying. Just like this guy in the middle, look how happy he is. And then the reality hits, the cleanup. The amount of paper used, as well as how much food and product waste created for just one event, it's crazy. So when it comes to Solistic, even though small in scale, we hope to do our due diligence from a grassroots level. And think about this. Not taking care of our environment is just like not taking care of our body. If we eat too much junk food, highly processed, high sugar, high sodium, we are more likely to get diabetes, high blood pressure, and you name it. Emotionally, we get more stress. We have a higher risk of suffering from anxiety and depression because we have a poor gut health. And our relationship with our nature is the same. We are creating a man-made disaster on a global scale. And to start a business at a time like this, it is a must to consider our nature. The question is, how? So at Solistic, when we create our vegan product, we try to use every part of the ingredients and use local produce when possible. Let's look at one of our products, the kale chips, as an example. The kale itself is grown by local farmers. Since it is grown in Hong Kong, we reduce the pollution created during long transportation. In terms of making it, while only the leaves is being used for the chips, we keep the stems and add them to our homemade vegetable stock recipe. Same for any other vegetable trims we've collected over the week. Vegetable stock will then be used in soup and sauce at our private dinner, catering service, and even our kimchi sauce. And when it comes to festive seasons, sometimes we end up with too much trims and converting them into vegetable stock would be too overwhelming. This is when we take the excess to our farm in Tai Po and convert them into compost. This homegrown vegetable will be then used back to our product or private dinner menu. And from there, we'll complete the cycle and create our mini supply chain for Solistic. By doing so, we reduce our carbon footprint by having a shorter transportation. Because we're growing our vegetable with organic compost, it is actually fresher and more nutritious. It's been 2 years since we've been running our vegetable garden, and it has been teaching me so much more than just vegetables. From learning crop rotations and understanding our soil health, I've experienced how closely we are connected to our nature. Packaging, however, is a bit more tricky to be perfect. Due to cost and food safety reasons, sometimes plastic will be used. However, that doesn't mean we cannot create a change. At Solistic, we use glass jars for our fermented product and offer cashback for clients who return their jars. What is the outcome? People become returning customers, and we create our own sustainable client base too. If a small startup can create a system for itself, imagine if we all do it together, how much change can we create for our planet? Now, I'm not saying I'm a climate change expert. The green transition I apply in my business comes from years of observations and learning through my career as an event planner. And ever since I started Solistic, I like to ask myself, do I want my success to be built on piles and piles of waste, focusing on personal gratifications while someone else is suffering on the other side of the world? So when it comes to what we as individuals can take to support the transition for a more sustainable future? My answer would be, it really depends on how much you love this planet. If you love something, you want to take care of it, protect it, and keeping them safe. And that's what we do. So next time when you are waiting for your takeaway or getting your groceries, put down your phone for a second and look around. How much waste are we creating? What would you do to stop the scene? As an individual, a consumer, or maybe if you're a packaging expert, how would you help small businesses to be more sustainable? It takes two hands to clap. If you are already bringing your own containers or shopping bags for groceries and takeaways, great. If you are moving to a more plant-based diet for climate change, wonderful. If you're supporting food waste recycling within the city, even better. All I want to say is we are in this together, and no actions is too small. Every actions that we take affects every other actions like a ripple in the pond. So let's challenge ourselves and do better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. And just a friendly reminder to everyone here in the audience, just submit your question in the QA box for us, and later we will have a QA section. So our next speaker is Chantel Wong. She is the Director of Culture at Eaton Hong Kong, a new global hospitality brand for travelers and locals seeking inspiration, innovation, and social and environmental impact. She's going to talk about what her company is doing to mitigate its environmental impact and how everyone here in the audience can also apply in your daily life. So over to you, Chantel.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's really nice to hear about other people's projects. Okay, let me try to share screen. Okay. It's always strange to just look at boxes and not see people's faces. But okay, so I'm Chantel, as Sonia already introduced, and I'm the Director of Culture from Eaton, HK. I just wanted to start with this slide, hospitality as human progress. I mean, we have a lot of mottos at Eaton which connect the work that we do, the people that we are, our philosophies, our values, to humanity, to environmentalism, to progress. So in a way, it's this North Star that never ends. You know, I think while we have this building in front of us, the umbrella company that we work under, I think, is rightly named Eaton Workshop. And Eaton Workshop itself has many different arms. It has the hotel, it has co-working space, it has Eaton Radio, it has like a media arm, and it also has a culture and impact arm. And so I think in a way, Eaton, I just want to start off that Eaton is this bigger picture with many parts to it, so that it can keep evolving and keep being responsive to the needs of society and the environment. So I think I just want to start with hospitality as human progress. And I just want imaginations to flow a little, because what we see right in front of us is this planet. And what does that mean to us? So on a practical level, this is a sign that we used to put up, you know, when you'd enter a room, right? So staying at Eaton Hong Kong means your experience can be 100% single-use plastic-free. You consume 58% less energy on property than the average regional hotel guest. Your stay will emit 55% less greenhouse gas than the average regional hotel guest. Your stay uses 20% less water than the average regional hotel guest. Your stay will send on average 63% less waste to landfills than the typical regional hotel guest. You support an inclusive space and platform for underrepresented people and voices to thrive in the modern age. So this was, I think, the first messaging that we try to give when people enter into the guest rooms. How do we actually do this? So I think what's important to know is, again, I kind of painted a picture of Eaton, that there's so many different compartments, right? So for those of you who have been to Eaton HK, you'll you'll know that we have a food hall. We have a gallery space. We have a music and bar space. We have a wellness center on the 21st floor. You know, we have a co-working space and so on and so forth. So we're really lucky to have many resources at our disposal, physical space as resources, so that we can continue using these spaces to take initiatives that will help our sustainability efforts and our community's sustainability efforts move them forward. So just a few key words here and a few examples. So the top layer is really about raising awareness. So it's kind of a 360 the way that we do programming. And again, for those of you who know us, programming is a really big, it's really just one of the key things that we do. And that's kind of what I take, I'm the manager for. So raising awareness. So we have these big billboards outside. And if you've ever passed by the expressway next door, it says, what if trees were more valued than buildings? And I already think that as an example, when Eaton HK opened, we were extremely, like 2 years ago, we were extremely proud to fill these billboards with our set of values, which already, and I think in itself is pretty progressive in Hong Kong. When billboards are normally used to place ads, this is really an advertising, but for a set of values. Next to that, we have radio. Olivia Coates, who she produces Luna, and it's menstrual products that are environmentally friendly. We have talks and panel discussions with partners with shared values. And then the second layer is really about providing offerings for through our different outlets. So we have the Impossible Burger, our mooncakes, you know, which are very big business in Hong Kong. Our mooncakes are always using sustainable packaging. So this one's very clever. Our design team's very clever. They use dim sum packaging. We work with water for free in our food hall. This is Pokit, who runs Mum's Veggie, and he's one of our really important outlets inside of our food hall. We actually bring in organic farmers into our co-working space to sell their goods, but we also incorporate them in our menu. So that's kind of the different types of partnerships that we have within the building, and constantly thinking of providing alternatives to consumers. And then I think on the bottom layer is actually really doing a lot of hard work as well. So we no longer use any plastic bottles. So it's only purified water in glass bottles in the rooms. We have removed a lot of what are they? Like shark's fin soup, different offerings in our menus normally that we've removed from our menu. And then we've actually tried to do this through education with our new packages. Like wedding is a big business, and so we're constantly trying to educate people or who come to book banquets with us about different types of ways that you can give back, whether it's donation or it's a different type of more environmentally friendly menu. I'm just trying to keep time, 8:29. So of course, these are really important. And so this is like where we have to, every single step of the way, think of how can we constantly improve on our sustainability, environmental concerns, priorities from inside out, from our programming all the way to every single decision we make on our menu, to our canteen food, to the amenities that we use. So it's even the way that now we're in constant discussion in 2021. One of the goals is high volume products like our cling wrap. How do we change that to make it more environmentally friendly? These umbrella bags that I don't know how many millions we throw away a day whenever it rains. How can we change these for more environmentally friendly solutions? So I think it's an ongoing process to think inside and out. Of course, it really makes a difference when it's recognized by third-party industry evaluators. So these are different types of awards that we've gained in the last year. I think on one hand, let's say the Hotel Investors Conference Award is not something I'm very familiar with because I'm more on the programming side, but I think to show that there is recognition for hospitality brands thinking about these things and prioritizing these things for hotel investors, I think is a really important form of recognition for the value and the long-term value of this kind of brand. EarthCheck is also one that I wanted to highlight just because it takes 10 years of consistent EarthCheck certification to get this platinum certification, which means that even though we've been around for 2 years, Eaton, before we renovated, has been around for 30, and that for the last 10 years, we've been receiving this form of recognition. I wanted to bring it back to our projects. And so this upcoming project is Another World is Possible. And this is a global multimedia festival that we're launching next week. So I'm just doing a bit of a plug, but I also think it's very relevant, is that we try to connect a lot of community and environmentalism work, but we also try to have interdisciplinary projects and like especially creative projects like this. So it's kind of a documentary film festival, but with a lot of multimedia and music and speakers. So I'm just gonna quickly, I don't know how much time I have, I'm getting like a bit nervous, but Another World, so I'm just gonna quickly read out the paragraph on the bottom. We're dedicating our festival's call to action to the Ponca Nation of Oklahoma's Rights of Nature Stop Keystone XL Pipeline campaign by Movement Rights. All donations through Another World is Possible will support movement rights work in recognizing rights of nature and stopping fossil fuel projects on indigenous land. The growing worldwide movement for rights of nature recognizes the rights of ecosystems to exist, thrive, and evolve its natural cycles. In most places, the law says nature is property to be owned and destroyed for human profit. But nature is a system of life of which we are a part of. And it is time our laws and culture reflect that before it's too late. As Ponca Nation of Oklahoma Environmental Ambassador and Elder Casey Camp Hornick says, we are not humans trying to protect nature. We are nature protecting itself. Casey is one of the film's protagonists in our screening of The Condor and the Eagle and will be speaking on our post-screening panel. Join us in supporting the effort to stop fossil fuel projects on indigenous land. So then this is our website. It's eatonworkshop.org if you want to find out about the program, and you can actually click and take action to support this fundraising campaign to support this group and this particular project to stop the pipelines. I think we'll end on that just as a summary of, I think the way that we work from inside out, but also in terms of campaigning through films and art, and the breadth of the environmental justice causes that we cover. This is a final image. If some of you walked by our building, this is by Pablo Ambarenga, and it's an image of a single tree that's standing above the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. Sorry. And I think it's really both symbolic of strength and strength of nature and resilience, but also of its fragility, because actually there's a fire burning in the back. And it's just something that's a reminder to us all to really bring awareness to our relationship and our responsibility to take care of our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chantel. And I can see some very good questions in the QA box, so please keep them coming. Okay, so until COVID, international travel has been restricted. However, we get to stay in Hong Kong, and I believe many of you may have had the chance to explore the local nature. So that's what our next speaker, Natalie Chung, is going to tell you about. Natalie co-founded Fair Hong Kong to promote sustainable local tourism when she was only 18. She has experience working with the World Bank, United Nations, WWF, and Kaduri Conservation China. Natalie is a youth member at the Council for Sustainable Development, as well as a founding member of Hong Kong Youth for Climate Action. She is currently pursuing the Master of Philosophy in Environmental Change and Management at the University of Oxford. So let's welcome Natalie.
Hi, everyone. So I guess my video was pre-recorded, so I guess the panelists can play it.
Yes, we have Natalie here with us live today, but she also recorded a video for us earlier on. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And later, Natalie will join us in the QA. So just throw in some questions for us and for her.
Thank you for your patience. Just 1 second as we figure out the pre-recorded videos.
Yeah, while Fiona is figuring out the logistics, maybe I can speak a bit. So I'm still based in Oxford now, and I'll be going back to Hong Kong soon. But then I believe the pandemic has told us the story that ecotourism has a lot of potential yet to be explored. And I see a lot of my friends going around Hong Kong, like doing short hike trips and even camping, and starting to see the importance of protecting our natural environment and nature conservation. And the IPCC is going to the IPCC is publishing its AR6 report very soon, which will talk about the importance of reaching net zero by 2050. And recently today, the government published the policy address confirming our goal as a city of Hong Kong to reach the net zero target by 2050, and hoping that we can all contribute as individuals in fighting in the climate action of reducing our own footprint, echoing with earlier speakers in the hospitality industry, fashion industry, and what we eat. So 衣食住行, the 4 aspects, by doing a little bit of behavioral change, it does not compromise our lifestyle. We can preserve the fun and joy of it, while at the same time minimize our footprint and environmental impact. If yeah, I think they're still figuring out some technical issues.
Please bear with us. We will be sharing Natalie's video very soon.
Okay, while we wait, really sorry for the technical difficulty. How about we can address one of the questions that's being asked? So this one was addressed to Tiffany by Vince. So as we can see in the Q&A, it says, "Hi Tiffany, thank you for your presentation. How do you see the advent of alternative meat technologies adding or affecting the overall landscape around natural plant-based diet? In your cooking and menus, do you use ingredients such as Omni pork and Impossible meats?"
That is a very good question, actually. A lot of people ask me because, as I mentioned, I become vegan for health reasons. So for me, I basically switched from normal diet to, I think I spent less than a year to be vegetarian, and then I just went straight to vegan because I was in culinary school and I was eating vegan food basically 3 meals a day. And I specialize in raw vegan. So we focus on obtaining the maximum nutrients from our natural food, and I pursue for a whole food plant-based diet. So when it comes to food technology, my take on this is I think it's a very good way for people who are looking to transit from normal diet to vegan. Is it the long-term way to rely on this? I don't think so. I still believe natural food is the way to go. And because while you are trying to figure out that piece of meat, you are doing a lot of lab tests, and at the same time you're creating a lot of waste. So why did you try so hard to create something while you have your tomatoes, your eggplant, your potatoes ready right in front of you, and all you need to do is to figure out different ways to cook them? So yeah, if that works for you, treat it as a transition. In the long term, I still go for natural food. Does that answer your questions? If I don't, then keep asking.
Yeah, I think a lot of people disregarded the production and the side effects and the side waste that come with production. So I think you raised a really interesting point. I think we're almost ready to screen, but one more question, sorry, Tiffany, directed to you, I think, Chantel could also jump on this as well. Does adopting a more sustainable lifestyle cost a lot? So I guess people are thinking, with the current like more sustainable technology like omniport and impossible meat, it's still costing, like now it's becoming more and more affordable. But it's still costing a little more. And even, Dorothy's not here to answer this, but sustainable fashion typically costs more than fast fashion on the extreme, but like just typical clothing that we wear. So what are your takes on this? I guess a lot of people deal with this kind of dilemma.
I can try to answer this. I'll be honest, because I don't really handle so much the operations, and like a lot of this is, when they choose amenities and so on and so forth. But like I was saying, with the high volume disposable stuff that we normally use, like cling wrap or like our amenities right now, we're really looking into bamboo toothbrushes or wooden toothbrushes. This has been something that we've been working on for I think before our opening, so for 3 years now. So our solution at the moment is we have certain amenities in the room, and there's some certain amenities we don't put there because they're used so often. So in a way, it's trying, and then the ones that we don't have there, we really put a sign saying, please request it at your need. So in that way, it's just bringing awareness to certain things. But we have found a solution this year. So we've continuously been sourcing. So finally we found one this year, and we will start replacing the plastic ones that we use in the room with bamboo wooden ones. So we're really excited about that. Same with the cling wrap. At the moment, there's an expense thing, but some of the products actually we can't even buy in Hong Kong. It's a lot more readily available in the US or in Europe. So there's also this sort of process of negotiation and then really trying to source distributors. So it is a lot of work. And that's why I think, I don't know if it was Tiffany before who was talking. So yes, from the food, it's an ongoing process. I really think if you can do one thing, and over time, I think the commitment is there. And I think I'm also answering Vince's other question that he asked, does it take leadership from the top? Yes, I think that one thing that we've been really trying to implement and solidify is our triple bottom line. So to replace and we're a really big institution, right? I think most of the companies that are on this panel are much smaller, and we are part of a bigger umbrella company. So I think the need for everybody to align on a triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit having equal weight is a mindset change. And both, it has come from the top, but even sometimes not the top, it can have different definitions for what that means, right? So you have to set that KPI together, and that in itself is a process. But yes, it does take mandate from the top, and then it still takes work from the inside, and then it takes a lot of ongoing research in order to meet that middle ground where all the sort of targets are met together. I don't know if that's a long answer.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's, it reminded me of this book called Atomic Habits. I guess it's, best-selling book. A lot of people have read it. And one thing that they mentioned is, in order to create a habit that is sustainable, like not in the environmental sense, but that is long-lasting, that is like, that involves long-lasting behavioral change, is these like small compounded effects. So it's not about, oh, I'm going to become vegetarian or I'm going to go zero waste like tomorrow. It's rather, you know, doing these step-by-step decisions every day. Like, and yeah, so, and the mindset change from the top down also really helps. So one thing that she was like, Civic Exchange does is like we try to influence policy changes by talking to policymakers. So but like also we compound that with a more bottom-up like engagement, like what we're doing now. So thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Okay, so I think Natalie's ready, and we're really sorry. I want to do a big apology of this like technical challenge, but thank you so much for sharing. So hand over to you now.
Great. So let me share my slides. I think you have to make me a co-host to share the slides. Okay, yes, thank you.
You should be able to now.
I'm really sorry for the technical errors, but let me start all over now with the live session, which is definitely unexpected, but hopefully it will go well. Cool. So I'll begin now. Be local, unraveling the secrets to solve climate change. Just now we've heard of different ways to reduce our carbon emission from using less packaging in the hospitality industry, to using food waste to make delicious culinary dishes, as well as upcycling for fashion. And my talk here is now summarizing a few of these key points to solve climate change at the individual level. As we're all coming from the corporate and the civil society, we play an important role in the society in shaping the future that we want. I guess, first of all, I really want to mention the importance of labeling to indicate embedded carbon. During COVID, we often order products from outside. It's so easy to just type online and get your Tesco deliveries and Amazon delivering right outside of your door. But do we ever think of the embedded carbon on the way? From transportation, from the farming process, how much carbon emission is produced, and the amount of water used, energy used. So there are different ways now Northern European are stipulating embedded carbon to be labeled on products. We have fashion brands now which advocate for adding a new carbon label to clothes. So when we're deciding on what food to buy, we not only look at their nutritional values on their labels, but also how much emission is produced during the process. I think one of the very important things to look at when we make our consumption decision is to think of its impact on the environment and the people. So recently I make a new purchase, which is the Fairphone, because my old phone broke. I guess a lot of you have not heard of this brand, while we are all fantasizing around iPhone 12. And I got this weird Fairphone. So what does this mean? Fairphone is prized as the most sustainable and ethical smartphone brand created from a campaign. So this campaigner from Netherlands, initially he was aware of the issues of conflict minerals and the amount of forced labor, child labor involved in the process. So he started advocating with normal brands such as Apple and Google, telling them to create more sustainable and ethical smartphones. But he realized that the amount of change that he could get there through his campaigning is so little and marginal. Therefore, he had this idea to create Fairphone as a brand, as an independent company that produces phone, and he's fairly sourcing all the material parts here. And then it also has a repairable design. It can be decompartmentalized into 6 different parts, and you can repair each of them when they're broken and get your upgrades. So you only need to send back the smaller parts to the company, and they can help upgrade it and then send you a new part. And the phone is also made of 40% of recycled plastics. And they are paying all the factory workers living wages, which means not only the bare minimum wage, but allowing a wage for them to live a life that allows them to flourish. So how can you cut your own carbon footprint? This is a question I get asked so often as like a youth climate activist or advocate. And I have 3 simple tips for you. Stay local, eat local, and buy local. So for stay local, just now Sonia also mentioned that I founded this social enterprise in 2015 with my peers. This was by the time of Paris Agreement, the momentous agreement signed international treaty that controls world's emission so that we can keep our temperature rise within 2 degrees Celsius and hopefully 1.5 degrees Celsius. At that time, my friends and I joined this COP21 climate challenge, where we were asked to think of a solution to make Hong Kong more progressive in its climate action. So we came up with this idea of Fair Hong Kong, which is this homophone to the word fair, green in French, F-E-E-R-T, which means green, but we're integrating this concept with air traveling. So to reimagine the way of travel, to recreate our travel experience so that it can be green and sustainable, which is a green staycation, where we are all enjoying now. This is our very first website prototype created within the 2 days of the creativity workshop. So we were comparing between local tourist spot, the Tai Lam Country Park in Hong Kong, where it has a lot of amazing red, orangey sweet gum trees. And the right-hand side, we're comparing it to Kyoto in Japan. If you are planning to stay local, you can save 8 hours of journey time, as well as around $9,000 of budget. And more importantly, you are saving 500 kilograms of carbon emissions, which is equivalent to switching off lights for 6 months. A lot of the times, it's easy to associate climate change with energy use, water use, but we seldom associate with other leisure options or even flying. I mean, prior to founding this organization, I also flew quite often, not being aware of its impact on the environment or the use of fuel and how efficient are the jet fuels going. This was an opportunity for me to reflect on my own behaviors and think of ways that we can drive the behavioral change. We wanted to rebrand local tourism into something that's cool, that is fun, that is interesting. It's not an alternative, but it is the first choice. Whenever you have a short holiday of 2 to 3 days, maybe just save the hassle of hopping on a plane and going to Taiwan in 2 hours. What about spend your 2 hours to go to the Portoy Island to enjoy the starlight, or go to one of the medical museums to understand medical history of Hong Kong? It's not only a way for you to understand yourselves better, but also a way for you to explore different parts of Hong Kong so you can construct your cultural identity rooted in this land that we love. This is our impact model of FAIR. We begin from experiential, providing people with a local tourism experience, subsequently public education. We believe by providing people with the authentic experience, we can really inspire them and enlighten them to change their behavior, slowly recognizing that there is intrinsic value in nature that we can learn from. And there are lots of traits of nature that we can adapt in our modern creation, which is the concept of biomimicry. And eventually, empowerment. Empowerment is what we really value, especially in the younger generation today. These are some of the tours that we have held to Ma Shi Chao Geopark in Hong Kong. And this is in Shing Mun Reservoir, introducing some leaf and tree species to the public. And this is what I'm most proud of. Our group of interns and core members, we are all secondary. Our organization is entirely run by secondary and university school students. Every year, we organize an internship scheme, hoping to attract secondary school students to join. We don't only want them to come and contribute to FAIR. The most important thing is to equip them with the skills that they need to start more meaningful campaigns. So one of our interns last year, she started her own climate story. which is a platform for people to collect and to send their own climate experience from around the world to raise awareness on the vulnerabilities of communities. Communities. We think FAIR is an interim place for you to gather skills and gather your connections, so that by planting these seeds around the world, we can amplify our impact, and not only containing in this small area of local tourism, but also in other intersectional issues, including gender, including food systems, and all. Recently, we're very proud to launch the Hong Kong Youth for Climate Action, founded by 5 individuals in Hong Kong. And in October 2020, we organized the first ever local conference of youth. We attracted over 80 participants, ranging from secondary school students to secondary school teachers. We also had a small dialogue with Asian youth climate leaders. They all shared what they have been doing. I remembered very clearly a youth climate activist from Japan. She called for the Japanese government to list out places that are facing climate emergency, and also identifying climate resilience infrastructure that are needed in different parts of Japan. I had the privilege to attend COI 15, which is the Conference of Youth Health held in Madrid last year. I remember very clearly what the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told us. Our message must not be a message of despair, but a message of hope. Things can be done, resources exist. What is still missing is political will. And that is where youth initiative is extremely important. So ending with an end note, I think I missed out the point of eating local and buying local, but I believe those were covered in the previous part, the importance of promoting local sustainable agriculture, because having agriculture in a place is where history comes from, is where history is rooted. And I fully support this, and hopefully everyone can follow these 3 tips of stay local, eat local, and buy local, so we can all act on our climate and take the initiative to help Hong Kong realize its plan to achieve net zero by 2050. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Thank you so much for sharing. And I sincerely apologize for the technical problem just now. Natalie has been very kind to be able to do us a live section, and that was amazing. And with her knowledgeable and with her knowledge and experience, thank you so much for sharing. And actually now we're going to have a proper Q&A section. So may I also invite the other 2 speakers with us, other 2 speakers to turn on their camera so that we can, just have the Q&A. And let me ask one question for all the speakers here. So one audience asked that many still consider a sustainable lifestyle as a more expensive lifestyle. So how do you propose dispelling that image? So maybe, for example, buying vegan food is probably more expensive than buying, not non-vegan foods, for example.
To me, I did a little research to compare how much I spent before become vegan and how much I spend now. It is actually quite similar. I didn't feel like I'm spending a lot. In fact, sometimes I feel like I'm spending less. And when I was in culinary school, even people not in Hong Kong, they are saying, oh, I was vegan for 3 years during university because I want to save money. So I think it depends on where you are buying your food. If you're going to more expensive grocery stores, then yes, organic, and they will put all the labels on to add up the price. But if you go to wet market, you often find the price is actually quite reasonable. So no, I don't think it's expensive. And that is also why I prefer natural food, because for food technology, your price add up too with the research cost in the product.
Okay, that's very true, because this may be just some misconception among people. Just vegan food is more expensive because maybe some of them spend a lot of money advertising that, and that makes the price higher. But then if we just choose some simple choices, then that would be just as cheap as just normal foods. So actually, personally, I think many people are aware of what climate change is and how it is affecting us. People are aware of that, but there is a gap between knowing about this and doing something about it. So they know about what climate change is. They know what you have all been talked about. You all have been talking about, but then there is a gap between knowing about this and doing something about it. So what do you think is the reason and what's missing?
I think I can jump onto this question. This value action gap is often addressed in the climate change context, I think especially in Hong Kong. I remembered a survey done a few years back showing that teenagers are more concerned about environmental change, but then most actions happen in middle or even senior elderly people in the world, in Hong Kong, because elderly are so used to the tradition of, like bringing their own lunch boxes to get rice or to get food and groceries. But now it's just become so convenient to use disposables. And I believe one of the most important things to change this and to bridge the gap is by empowering people, that telling them it is easier than they think and the impact behind. And I think it's also useful to communicate by message tailoring to different audience segment. For some of the people who are very optimistic about the future, like they think climate change can be solved, and the other of the people, they might be more in denial of the fact that climate change is happening, or even thinking that whatever they do would not be helpful. So I think it's useful to get the message across by slightly pivoting the action that are targeted to them. For instance, some people might find it very difficult to just bring out their own boxes out to get meals because it's adding a lot of, and they also think it's not that useful because everything is just composted in the end. So maybe for those people, we can provide them with alternatives such as vegware or other compostable materials. While for people who are more willing to take that, or even maybe incentivized by monetary incentives, such as a reward scheme of minusing $1 or $2 if they bring their own containers, then we can use that approach. So I think it's important to identify the audience segment and the reason for the value action gap, and then tailoring a certain solution and presenting it to them, showing them it is possible and it is feasible to do so.
Thank you, Natalie. This is actually quite a concrete example of what can be done. So maybe in view of the time, maybe I would just ask one last question. So, and a question that everyone may be able to relate is that after you have heard from other speakers, would you be able to think of one thing other than the ones that you have shared, one thing that maybe the other one is doing? For example, maybe Chantel, maybe you would like to start consuming more plant-based food, or for example, Natalie, you may want to, do something that the other speakers have shared. Have they inspired you to do something more?
Yeah, I mean, I think the plant-based diet and trying to bring that into, I mean, Eaton is already doing that kind of work, but I know that we have a long way to go to really, so we've slowly included the impossible, of course, and different types of ingredients. But 2021, we really want to make sure that we're working with agents who check all the sources of our fisheries and everything. And we have been already trying, but again, there's just an endless thing. And I think definitely seeing Tiffany's efforts with bringing that a really amazing looking menu is something that hopefully we can incorporate here even better to the next level. And of course, on a personal level too. I've tried many times, but yeah.
Thank you.
I think Chantel inspired me to, when I look for places to stay, I should check whether they're providing these sustainability initiatives, because a lot of the times we just look at the price tag, or the level of service, but I don't think there are currently a lot of green labels for hotels, like a rating for each of the hotels so that we can compare it easily. Maybe we know which is the most eco-friendly one, but the middle tiers, it's might be missed. So I guess maybe we can also explore creating a system that benchmark sustainability efforts in hotels, like ranging different aspects, like whether they provide water on demand, or they use less plastic bottles, or they don't provide, like plastic toothbrush, and etc. And of course, Tiffany, I'd love to try your culinary artisanal dishes.
Thank you. I actually learned a lot from all the presentation today. I think 衣食住行, food, travel, clothing, and staying. They're all interrelated. I've been vegan for 3 years now, and very often when I go to a restaurant, I go to an event, I will look for green options, which is what the other 3 speakers have been sharing today. So I think one person can only do so little, and the time is limited. It takes, we need to build a community instead of competition to grow and keep educating people, raising the awareness. So it's really good to know everyone and learn about what you're doing. I think there is hope in Hong Kong when everyone is saying recycling is quite expensive and impossible in Hong Kong. Climate change is not going to change in anything in Hong Kong, but yeah, I see a lot of hope today. So thank you.
Yeah, echoing with what Tiffany said, I was reminded of what my lecturer Kate Ward told us, that we need to move from silo circularity to ecosystem circularity, which means we don't just work on an individual enterprise, but try to create an ecosystem that influence change across other sectors. So we share our knowledge, we co-create, and to generate synergies between the industry. So for instance, I'm promoting local tourism, but I can also partner with hotel brands to see what we can do further to get ecosystem really in among the trendy thing that people want to do. So I guess we're seeing more of these ecosystem circularity, and hoping that it can really change the equilibrium and pave way for green recovery after the pandemic in Hong Kong.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Natalie, Tiffany, and Chantel. And I agree that just talk to people, raise awareness, share what we have discussed with maybe your friends, colleagues, or family, and that would also make an impact, because climate change is related to everyone. A sustainable lifestyle, everyone can do it. So yeah, just talk to your friends and family. And also we had Dorothy sharing today with us as well. So thank you very much to Dorothy. And she mentioned that one of the example I remember is we could spare maybe 10% of our fashion spending into sustainable fashion. So that is also something that we could think about to do, and just by doing something very little, that could help. So yeah, thank you so much to all of you again. And I hope everyone in the audience are also inspired to make some simple actions to change. Yeah, and yeah, that's, thank you so much. So because tonight is the finale session of the TEDxCivic Exchange event, I would also like to hand it back to Fiona from Civic Exchange to make a closing remark for us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I learned so much, and I wish I keep having this idea in my head. Maybe we could have one day of local tourism, or a staycation, where I would go and try Tiffany's food, and then with Natalie's tour, and then we'll go visit Dorothy's shop, and then we end up having a good meal at Eton, something like that. But anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight, and a huge shout out for the speakers tonight. And since this is the last event, I will miss having all these very mind-stimulating fascinating conversations and really just dreaming big with everyone. All the presentations and live discussions were recorded and will be uploaded onto TEDx YouTube channel. So not only Civic Exchange YouTube channel, but TEDx own YouTube channel, which has 28 million subscribers. So please stay connected. Follow all of us on our platforms. If you want to see our recap, it's on Hong Kong 2050 is now Facebook platform. So please feel free to go there. And as we heard the good news that the government today pledged to go carbon neutral by 2050, it is time for us to pick up our pace even more and start thinking about our own climate actions. And perhaps making a pledge to make small changes like we talked about today. A lot of great ideas to start, whether it's eating one day plant-based every week or traveling local more. So we're really truly counting down to net zero Hong Kong by 2050. And thank you so much again. And please stay connected. I would love to see more collaboration and more connections among, speakers and even audiences. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting.